Wedges, the most sought after of tornadoes when it comes to the world of storm chasing. Only a few can say that they have both had the luck and the unluck of seeing one of these monstrous monsters up close in person. A wedge is described as being wider than it is tall, and can sometimes hold multiple wedges inside, rotating around one parent wedge. In this video, we will take a look at some of my most memorable wedge encounters over the last 16 years of my chasing career. I have chased for thousands of miles, week upon week on the roads.
Hey, Marino! Thank you for choosing Taco Bus. It's gonna be a 15-20 minute wait before I can take any orders.
Okay, I'll just leave then.
From Illinois all the way to Indiana. So grab a snack, perhaps a drink, and enjoy. We start off on August 15th of 2016. The SPC doesn't even have a risk for severe weather on their first outlook, but as the day progresses, they eventually add a marginal risk of severe weather, and then add a 2% risk for a tornado or two in the area. Low pressure was moving toward the Great Lakes and brought a warm front north into central Indiana. The storm forms and produces a majestic mega wedge, barely missing the town of Whitestown, Indiana. Next on the list is the infamous November 17th high risk of 2013 that hit Illinois and Indiana. A potent trough swung through the Midwest, bringing extremely volatile dynamics, including extreme wind shear and high levels of instability for the time of the year. In turn, the SPC issued a rare high risk for the Illinois and Indiana area. The wedge I intercepted was near Allerton, Illinois, and was racing towards our 1999 Oldsmobile Bravada at highway speeds as we tried to race east to get out of its path. The wedge was unbelievably wide. You can tell because you can only see one sub-vortex in the frame here. That's what we chasers call a definitive feature. As my brother and I returned home from the chase, we caught yet another 17-mile wide wedge, with a single 2-mile wide wedge in the field to our northeast by 5 miles. Incredible, devastating, definitive. Our next wedge takes us to April 2nd of 2024. A very large trough ejecting from the Central Plains impinged upon the area. The SPC issues a moderate risk for extreme south and eastern Indiana. Limited breaks in the clouds raised uncertainty as to whether storms would form soon enough. I ended up intercepting a rain-wrapped super wedge a little bit west of the Cincinnati area. The storm was also moving very quickly, so being able to keep up with the wedge was impossible. Upon getting south of the storm, I quickly gained visual of the likely wedge wrapped in rain. It eventually raced to the east, where I watched it disappear behind the hills of southern Indiana. Our journey now takes us to the west central parts of Indiana, where yet another wedge was intercepted. The date is August 5th of 2023 near Waveland, Indiana. A decaying MCV, or mesoscale convective vortex, was slowly moving into the state from the west. As it approached, it enhanced the wind shear in a very local area, and with some breaks in the clouds, it was looking like wedge o'clock in the afternoon. I followed the storm from near the state line, and the longer I followed it, the more wedgy it looked. Eventually, it produced a violent 9-mile wide multi-vortex wedge near Waveland. You can see here as I approached from the south, the several wedge sub-vortices again. Textbook and super duper violent. The wedge eventually moved through a field, with brief wedges kissing the ground to my northeast. I moved through town, and it dissipated quickly, only to form another snake wedge just outside of town. Truly incredible. We now move to extreme northern Indiana, where I capture an even more rare and extreme wedge. The nipple wedge. These types of wedges are so large and violent, they seem tiny and weak. It's the day after the 4th of July, and Mother Nature gave us one heck of a show. A super strong cold front was moving in from the west, sparking a line of isolated supercells that had storm relative helicity values in excess of 10 million meters squared per second squared, a once-in-a-lifetime event. I was joined by Tia Justice, the president of ISC, on this chase, and we were both fearing for our lives as we watched the mega nipple completely destroy the countryside. And we were both fearing for our lives as we watched the mega nipple completely destroy the countryside. The width of this wedge is too great to give you a scale of just how large this tornado was. The next wedge was intercepted in central Illinois on March 31st of 2024. The day began with the target of Effingham, Illinois, but seeing that no storms were going to form on the warm front, I decided to head north towards a renegade supercell moving southeast. I intercepted it southeast of Decatur, Illinois, and when I parked in a field to get a better look, I knew that it was wedge time. The sun had set, but the intense lightning flashes occasionally backlit the obvious wedge hiding under the elevated base. As the monster grew closer, I began fearing for my life again and started to flee from my position. The beast had a vengeance, though. It followed me all through the night, all the way home. The last but certainly not least wedge was from July 9th of 2024. The remnants from Hurricane Beryl had moved into the southern part of the state, yet again enhancing wind profiles in the area. Like the April 2nd wedge, a lack of sunshine raised questions as to whether or not enough instability would be present for wedges at all. But Mother Nature finds a way. I first intercepted a beautifully sculpted LP, or low precipitation supercell, near Salem, Indiana. After the majestic tower moved north, I noticed a new, more robust storm forming over Scottsburg to my east. I began to drive towards it, only to be met with a massive rainbow wedge just before entering town. The rainbow wedge impacted the western edge of town with happiness and unicorns for a short while. After the rainbow wedge vanished, I performed a hook slice maneuver where you punch through the precipitation, wrapping around the mesocyclone of the storm. Once through, a menacing wall cloud loomed over the town. I followed the storm all the way to New Point, Indiana, where it put down a 5.5 mile wide wedge in the cornfields just to my east. You can see the rapid rotation in the video here, with a massive wedge manifesting right there. After that wedge vanished, I kept following the storm, only for it to produce a never-before-seen sky skella wedge. A wedge that hovers in the sky and only shows the bones. This sky skella wedge has shifted in the sky sideways to show its skeletal ribs. The motion was unlike anything I had ever seen. In conclusion, the last 16 years of my chasing career have been extreme nonetheless. After reviewing my videos and my brain, I have estimated that I have seen at least 4,458 wedges in my lifetime. Let's hope I can see 4,459 in the next 16 years. Thanks for watching, and stay wedgy, my friends.